After a very interesting weekend, it's time to take a look at the stories that made it to the front of the pages this Monday morning. Welcome again to the Morning Crossfire. If you're just joining us, you missed 1.5 hours.
That's right.
But you have 1.5 hours more to go. Welcome to the front pages today. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry. The papers are in already. The verdicts are in. So we've got loads of them here. The Independent, The Punch, The Nation, This Day newspaper, Daily Trust, The Blueprints. They're full.
They're all here.
It's loaded.
That's right. And we have joining us today Rotimi Sankore to take a look at these headlines. Rotimi, good morning.
Good morning.
Around Nigeria, let's kick start. Remember, The Guardian is our media partner on 99.3 Nigeria Info, and we're streaming live on Facebook and Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. That means you can watch us on Facebook. You can also see us live on YouTube and leave us your comment on our WhatsApp number 08095975805, as well as on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. A banner headline, you can put your money on it and just tell me what the banner headline would be today. It's a big story on the front page of The Guardian. Soyinka others protest as DSS moves Sowore to Abuja. 3 riders here. Groups urge unconditional release of activists. His plot is to topple democratic government. Buhari warns planners of revolution. That's a banner headline of The Guardian. And on The Nation newspaper, presidency, DSS, activists clash over planned protests. Who said what? Presidency said there is a difference between peaceful call to protest and incitement for a revolution. Soyinka says if we cannot learn from the histories and experiences of our societies, let us at least learn from ours. DSS says, what is a revolution? It is primarily a revolt, insurrection, insurgency, forceful takeover of government. Falano says security agencies should stop embarrassing President Buhari, who had cause to also lead peaceful rallies. On the front page of the New Telegraph, Sowore working with foreign backers to topple Buhari, says DSS. President saying revolution cannot unseat my government. Soyinka says Nigeria back to Abacha days, fourth arrest. Front page of The Punch, banner headline, Revolution Now saga, protesters Buhari group may clash. Soyinka others knock presidency. And the riders here, so many. Police panic. IG sends alarm message to CPs. Reveal your identity, Buhari tells protest sponsors. We won't... When I saw that tweet this early morning, it said, show your faces. We won't participate in anti-federal government protests, says Northern Group. Banner headline on the Vanguard, revolution call. You cannot change government without the polls. Presidency tells Sowore. Angry reactions as DSS confirms Showore's arrest, moves him to Abuja. No going back on today's protest, says NIM. Pro-Biafra groups opt out. Buhari's government is behaving like Abacha's, says Soyinka. It's bad democratic temperance, says Afenifere. It's leadership incompetence, says Oshintokun. Our democracy has become a block of ice floating on warm waters, Shehu Sani. North is not part of the call for the revolution protests. CNG.
Well, it's everywhere.
I mean, that's basically. I remember Nigeria that from 8 to 9, that's what we're talking about. Would have Shegun Awosonya, also called Shega Links, join us over the phone. Our correspondents are standing by here in Lagos and Abuja and Port Harcourt. We're going to tell you, you would see live. So make sure you're following us to see live what's happening across the country today. Rotimi. Interesting weekend, yeah?
Well, there's just 2 words for this: political comedy. Honestly. So with the matter of El Zaki, it's been described as poor crisis management. With this Sowore-led protest, it looks more like a case of poor strategic threat assessment. Honestly, if I didn't know better, I would think that some people inside the government are out to embarrass the president. No cabinet yet, and they are blowing their political capital like this. The government has not started. Sometimes it's as if they are toddlers in charge of the country's security apparatus. It's absurd. Any decent historian or political scientist will tell you that all of humanity's history, without exception, centuries of our history on this planet shows that you can't make a press statement on Friday and implement a revolution on Monday. It's ridiculous threat assessment.
What the DSS and the presidency are saying is, so they brought out the dictionary meaning of the word revolution.
Please.
And
The government is waging war on corruption. War.
Okay, if we're going to go the
if we're gonna
drama
go-
way.
exactly.
The government is waging war
Exactly.
on corruption. Are they going about bombing the houses of the corrupt people?
Well,
Have they unleashed the commandos and army divisions on corrupt people?
I mean, since they use the word war.
Yes.
well,
It's just a word. People should. I mean, look. So look, the rains are about to be unleashed today. The worst that would have happened is that a bunch of people would have marched up and down in the rain.
wearing orange caps.
Yes. And placards that would have been drenched within 30 minutes. And after some time, the umbrella will give way. They will take cover somewhere,
And go home.
go home and go and look for some hot beverage. And we'll continue with things tomorrow. Look, hey, Nigeria is a very funny country. The state security services honestly should take themselves more seriously. Any serious person in that organization will know that Nigeria is not even in a pre-revolutionary situation. Not to mention a revolution.
But we can say, though, that the DSS is within its ambit, to say if they think there might be a threat to...
No, they are not. This is the work of police.
Which is what I'm saying, to invite, for questioning. But
no, this is the work of police at the very most.
Well,
the Nigerian state has a way of exaggerating things. This is at the very most. This is the work of police. At the very most, what would have happened today would have been a kind of public order matter.
yeah.
Disturbing the peace at the very most.
And if you have policemen standing by in case there's a riot, I mean, anti-riot policemen should just stand by.
To elevate a march, a hashtag into a threat to state security.
And the arrest was
Good
made
grief.
about 2 a.m. I mean, that was
That's
that was
Gestapo
pretty,
style.
that was pretty.
I mean,
Jackie Chan
this
move.
is what Professor Shoyinka is talking about. Somebody that is not hiding.
It's not hiding. Okay, we'll talk about this for
That's right.
for one full hour.
We
at
have
8
8 o'clock to talk about this. Now, this is really going to interest you, Rotimi, because yes, we cannot. It won't just go away. 2.2 billion naira already budgeted for Ruga implementation. This is coming from the presidency. Daily Independent newspaper. 2.2 billion naira.
This is
You two said, huh?
this is the government said they suspended the Ruga.
2.2 billion naira already budgeted for Ruga implementation. The presidency. Daily Independent
Okay, so
newspaper.
who is going to arrest the guy that budgeted that money now?
This is the headline here on The Guardian. It says, provide land for Ruga. Presidency urges states. I don't understand. Didn't the presidency say the plan was suspended? We have 2.2 billion naira budgeted for it, and the presidency is coming back to say provide land.
From the Daily Sun, President Buhari's advisor gives insight on grazing projects for herdsmen. 2.2 billion naira already in 2019 budget for Ruga.
Could we just maybe
me.
the government will planning to divert it to something else, or
Look,
to
Let's just hope that this is for the states like Kanu and Co that have said that they are voluntarily going to implement it, whether the federal government suspends it. I mean, let's just hope that these headlines are not are not what it says. You see, the real threat to the security of Nigeria is two things. One is underdevelopment and poverty. And I really don't see how the DSS or the police can arrest or charge underdevelopment and poverty. Unfortunately, it is worsening under this government. This government is not the cause. They inherited a lot of it, but it is worsening. It's a cumulative thing. It started under the military, then PDP, and then the first term Buhari APC government. But they keep forgetting. The current data shows us that roughly 8 million children are born in this country every year. The investment in human and social development is not keeping up. The underdevelopment will keep getting worse. The poverty will keep deepening. That's the real threat. And alongside that, the next threat is very, very poor public policy. These are the things we need to pay attention to. Sure. And in any case, if those things are addressed, it doesn't matter whether a group turns up at Tinubu Square and declares itself as revolution yesterday. Nobody will pay attention to them if everything is working well.
We're talking about protests. Another protest, police vows to stop El Zazaki protests in Kaduna as trial resumes. That's a headline on The Guardian. On the Nation newspaper, El Zazaki police warns against procession. It's also here on so many other papers today. The ruling will be holding in Kaduna today.
That's right.
And the police has said, don't protest, don't form a procession at all.
Well, you see, look,
remember that the IMN is prescribed, by the way.
I think, maybe, the IGP, the head of security, maybe some of them needs to go on courses.
Okay.
Maybe some of them need to go on courses on strategic threat assessment. A lot of all this statement, tension, threatening, this treasonable felony thing, this is life sentence. What are they going to do? They will gather a group of young people and sentence them to life.
The same allegation was made against Atiku. Remember last week about his tweet saying it was
issuing statements congratulating the Super Eagles.
Rotimi just makes you laugh.
Making himself look like
a shadow president, and they said it borders on felony.
Congratulating football teams.
Well,
maybe it's security threats. You never know.
Our next story is also here on the front page of The Guardian. Fatoyibo returns to pulpit after 1 month of stepping down. You can trust the papers to have a story on this. The Punch also has it. Fatoyibo resumes 1 month after rape allegation. He stepped down for a while and he's back. On the front page of the Vanguard, Koza, angry reactions trail Pastor Fatoyibo's return to pulpit.
Now, compare. So, somebody went to serve the complainant with a letter and went there with a bus load of armed police. That's the complainant, though.
Yeah.
The person alleged was not visited with a bus load of armed police. I beg.
Okay, let's move on. Xenophobia, FG, South Africa disagree over killing of Nigerians in South Africa. Daily Sun newspaper, from Daily Independent newspaper, Nigerian taxi driver shot dead in South Africa. And it's also in our news this morning about Governor David Mai saying that petitioning the South African government over the killing of one Simon, who was 43, by the way.
This South Africa matter, it needs a conference across Africa. To really, for those of us that joined the anti-apartheid movement as teenagers, it's always sad and worrying that in a country where, the whole continent contributed both materially, financially, spiritually to their liberation from white minority rule. The social and economic circumstances are now tipping their young people against other Africans. I mean, for sure, we need to understand the root causes so that it can be properly addressed.
True.
Youth unemployment in South Africa is the highest in the world.
That's right. Pretty high.
Yeah, it's
Very high.
just over 50%. Now, a lot of those people don't have the education to engage in meaningful employment because under the apartheid system, black people were not afforded the opportunity to get a proper education. Millions and millions. Unfortunately, poverty, frustration, ignorance can jump the generation gap and cross over. And this is happening.
So you find people fighting for the limited resources.
And since unfortunately Nigerians are the one group of, in quotes, foreigners that stand out in South Africa because, whether it is mechanic workshop, supermarket, restaurant, spare parts, whatever the case may be, Nigerians are very visible. And a lot of these young South Africans don't understand that a young Nigerian guy that wears shorts and slippers and t-shirts can have assets worth millions of rand.
Yeah.
I mean, the way we will understand it here, that if you go to Alaba or anywhere,
yes, you find people trading in
tell
millions.
That, yes, you can tell that people that are walking about wearing slippers have assets worth millions of naira. And what really pains me is that our High Commission does not actively explain this. I remember once asking one of our deputy high commissioners when I went to the Pan-African Parliament in South Africa. I said, why don't you guys explain why or how it is that Nigerian entrepreneurs are able to, especially for instance, young Igbo men that have access to cooperative funds, that are contributed by, so they don't need to get the fund from the bank. People can contribute it for them. So when people come and allege that they are drug dealers, you need to be able to come out and explain that while there may be drug dealers, the vast majority, it's like going to Alaba and saying that everybody there is a drug dealer.
Exactly.
There are people who are doing legit business.
Because they didn't get their money
Lots
from
of
the
them.
bank.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
That's right.
On the other hand, the South Africans too are squarely to blame. Because on the one hand, they are not dealing properly with their youth unemployment problem. On the other hand, their police is also largely corrupt and xenophobic. So that when these crimes are committed, they are, they don't deal with it in an even-handed way.
But then police is a reflection of the society.
Yes, it is. It is. Even the politicians. There are many South African parliamentarians that went to school in Nigeria for free. I went to school with some of them, and we've often reminded them that, guy, our government, Mutala, Obasanjo, and even a bit of Shagari government paid their fees. They lived for free, ate for free when Nigerians were paying their own fees. And after the end of apartheid, they went back and and some of them became successful politicians. Even those people are failing to explain those things very, very sadly. It's something that I will recommend to the African Union that the matter should be taken up so that the economic and social dimensions and political dimensions are dealt with. The criminal element of it can be dealt with by any fair
criminals.
police.
Yeah, there should be.
Yes, the criminal element of it can be dealt with by any fair and even-handed.
But you can't
police.
stereotype everyone by saying they all do the same.
The matter needs to be taken up big time. There was a time that Zimbabweans and Mozambicans and a whole lot of people were being harassed and chased all over the place because they are mostly artisans there. They do carpentry, plumbing, electrician,
all the menial jobs.
But they are slightly better skilled at it than the South
But
Africans.
how best can the South African government, in the immediate, how best can they tackle this? Because it's almost looking like they're helpless.
Well, it's a change of public policy. Investment in vocational training, mass investment in vocational training is one quick way. Loans for young people to go into business after some financial literacy training is another way to do it. Even adults that didn't have an opportunity to go to school, they can start adult education for them. It's not impossible. I mean, there are countries that I've been to
Very important.
this planet where I've met people who became doctors in their 40s and only started primary school when they were in their late teens or early 20s and became doctors in their mid 40s.
Wow.
I've even met someone that became a doctor when he was 50, and he started primary school when he was 19.
Oh my goodness.
Let's touch on this story before we go. It's on the front page of the Guardian. Pretty interesting. Saudi Arabia modernizes stoning of devil to check stampede at Arafat. You find the story on page 2. Saudi Arabia the authorities have introduced an electronic system into the stoning of the 3 devils at Muna after Arafat Day. This is to monitor the movement of pilgrims to ensure orderliness and check stampede in the 2019 pilgrimage. Usually, when people are rushing, there's a crowd of people. So what they're doing now is to introduce the electronic system. I believe you'll be given the time to come in, so you're not all going in at the same time. Good crowd management, I think.
All right, let's look at this one, Rotimi, quickly. And this is quite important.
Sorry, there's just something to note there. You see, when it comes to matters of faith, the whole idea of stoning sort of evolved as a kind of mob thing. Everybody stones
at the same time.
For maximum effect.
For maximum effect. Are you sure it's for man?
The devil can feel it when it's... Go on, Rotimi.
You guys go.
Some pilgrims, they will need to explain properly to some pilgrims.
Yes, exactly.
That this timed stoning,
it's going to be individual.
But it will still be effective because some people take the thing very serious.
That's right.
Yes,
that's right.
And they will think if they don't go in the group,
your pilgrimage is not even complete without
it.
So they will have to do a lot of public education because pilgrims come from countries where there are different levels of development, different levels of literacy.
That's right.
So to try and explain to people who have paid a lot of money
to go
there,
and then you tell them,
and then a big part of it is casting the stone that they have to go in relay, very tidy.
That's right.
And timed and possibly not throw with all your might.
So it doesn't bounce back at you, boomerang. Well, a lot of enlightenment really.
Let's look at this headline, and it's quite interesting because, it is interesting. Local fares skyrocket as airlines charge 70,000 naira one-way flight. Daily Independent.
To go where?
Oh well, maybe that's the average. And MD of Fringe Glow says reason Nigeria aviation industry is in comatose. Another similar one, airline operators kick over flight allocations to Emirates. It's
they're saying Emirates, the UAE is getting more juicy. There's the headline here. Airline operators lament lopsided pacts with UAE. They want fair deal with Emirates. Kick against additional flights. I think they want to have another flight.
Well, there is a combination of things. They are effectively leading to a hike in
airfare.
In airfares. I mean, this is, anytime I'm flying, even within the country, I find the whole thing quite. Look, so me when I was in secondary school, I used to fly Nigeria Airways, Lagos to Enugu for 26 naira.
No, don't even talk about that now. Don't mention. Don't even mention. That's what I was asking. The 70K to go where now?
So, when you say 30 or 70,000, young people now, if they know that there was a time you could get ticket to London for 500 naira. I mean, you can't even get Uber for that.
No way.
So, in other words, where I'm going with this is that the Nigerian middle class is fast disappearing. Earning and purchasing power is not keeping up with anything. And please, if you're a member of middle class, and you
Remember
get
there was a
frustrated,
time.
remember that revolution now is potentially treasonable. In case you, I mean,
By the way, we need to wrap up now. Don't worry, we'll
Yes,
talk about this a lot.
yes.
We need to play our ads. But correspondent today, Pratt is standing by right now in Lagos. He's sending some photos. We'll share them with you on social media. And these photos are coming in from the National Stadium in Surulere, where people are already hanging around for the protest. We'll give you more details when we come
long
back
and short,
from the break.
the government needs to pay more attention to the things that matter.
Rotimi, we really must wrap up now. Our ads are due. We'll see you again after the hour, just
That's
behind
right.
the hour. See you shortly. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
I'm Sheriff Quadry.